Hello, I'm Luke Wilhelm, director of 11th Hour Studios' adaptation of The Speckled Band by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Doyle wrote 4 novels and 56 short stories about the exploits of his famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Given the wide variety of adventures, it may be hard to pick a favorite. However, Conan Doyle always considered this his best story. Join us now as we take you back to the dark and mysterious world of Victorian detective Sherlock Holmes in The Speckled Band.
Watson. Very sorry to wake you up, Watson, but it's the common lot this morning. Mrs. Hudson has been woken up. She retorted upon me, and I on you.
What is it, then? A fire?
No, a client. It seems that a young lady has arrived in a considerable state of excitement, who insists upon seeing me. She is waiting now in the sitting room. Now, when young ladies wander about the metropolis at this hour of the morning, and knock sleepy people out of their beds, I presume that it should be something very pressing which they have to communicate. Now, should it prove to be an interesting case, you would, I am sure, wish to follow it from the outset? I thought at any rate that I should call you and give you the chance.
My dear fellow, I would not miss it for anything.
Well, throw on some clothes and we'll go down to the sitting room. Good morning, madam. My name is Sherlock Holmes. This is my dear friend and associate, Dr. Watson, before whom you can speak as freely as before myself. I am glad to see that Mrs. Hudson has had the good sense to light the fire. Pray, draw up to it, and I shall order you a cup of hot coffee, for I observe that you are shivering.
It is not cold which makes me shiver.
What then?
It is fear, Mr. Holmes. It is terror.
Oh, you must not fear. We shall soon set matters right, I have no doubt. You have come in by the train this morning, I see.
You know me, then?
No, but I observed the second half of a return ticket in the palm of your left glove. You must have started early, and yet you had a good drive in a dog-cart along heavy roads before you reached the station. There is no mystery, my dear madam. The left arm of your jacket is spattered with mud in no less than 7 places. The marks are perfectly fresh. There is no vehicle save a dog-cart which throws up mud in that way, and then only when you sit on the left-hand side of the driver.
Whatever your reasons may be, you are perfectly correct. I started from home before 6, reached Leatherhead at 20 past, and came in by the first train to Waterloo. Sir, I can stand this strain no longer. I shall go mad if it continues. I have no one to turn to. None save only one who cares for me, and he, poor fellow, can be of little aid. I have heard of you, Mr. Holmes. I have heard of you from Mrs. Farintosh, whom you helped in the hour of her sore need. It was from her that I had your address. Oh, sir, do you not think that you could help me too, and at least throw a little light through the dense darkness which surrounds me? At present it is out of my power to reward you for your services, but in a month or 6 weeks I shall be married, with control of my own income, and then, at least, you shall not find me ungrateful.
Farintosh. Ah, yes, I recall the case. It was concerned with an opal tiara. I think it was before your time, Watson. I can only say, madam, that I shall be happy to devote the same care to your case as I did to that of your friend. As to reward, my profession is its own reward, but you are at liberty to defray whatever expenses I may be put to, at the time which suits you best. And now, I beg that you will lay before us everything that may help us in forming an opinion upon the matter.
Alas, the very horror of my situation lies in how vague my fears are, and how my suspicions depend so entirely upon small points which might seem trivial to another. Now, even my fiancé, to whom I should be able to look for help and advice, dismisses my fears as the fancies of a nervous woman. He does not say so, but I can tell by his soothing answers and averted eyes. But I have heard, Mr. Holmes, that you can see deeply into the manifold wickedness of the human heart. You may advise me what to do amid the dangers around me.
I am all attention, madam.
My name is Helen Stoner, and I am living with my stepfather, who is the last survivor of one of the oldest Saxon families in England, the Roylotts of Stoke Moran, on the western border of Surrey.
The name is familiar to me.
The family was, at one time, among the richest in England, yet, through a succession of dissolute and wasteful heirs, we have now come nearly to ruin. My stepfather, seeing that he must adapt himself to new conditions, begged a loan, which enabled him to get a medical degree. He went out to Calcutta, where, by skill and force of character, he established a large practice. In a fit of anger, however, he beat his native butler to death. He narrowly escaped a capital sentence. As it was, he was imprisoned for a very long time, and afterwards returned to England, morose and disappointed. When Dr. Roylott was in India, he married my mother, Mrs. Stoner, the young widow of Major General Stoner, of the Bengal Artillery. My sister Julia and I were twins, and we were only 2 years old at the time of my mother's remarriage. She had a considerable sum of money, about £1,000 a year, and this she bequeathed to Dr. Roylott entirely, with the condition that a certain annual sum should be allowed to each of us on our marriage. Shortly after our return to England, my mother died. She was killed 8 years ago in a railway accident near Crewe. Dr. Roylott then abandoned his attempts to establish himself in practice in London, and took us to live with him in the old ancestral house at Stoke Moran. The money which my mother had left was enough for all our wants, and there seemed to be no obstacle to our happiness. But a terrible change came over our stepfather about this time. Instead of making friends and exchanging visits with our neighbours, who had at first been overjoyed to see a Roylott of Stoke Moran back in the old family seat, he shut himself up in his house, and seldom came out save to indulge in ferocious quarrels with whoever might cross his path. A violent temper, almost mania, has been hereditary in the men of the family. In my stepfather's case, I believe it had been intensified by his long residence in the tropics. A series of disgraceful brawls took place, 2 of which ended in the police court, until at last he became the terror of the village, and the folks would fly at his approach, for he is a man of immense strength and absolutely uncontrollable in his anger. Last week he hurled the local blacksmith over a parapet into a stream. It was only by paying over all the money which I could gather together that I was able to avoid another public disaster. He has no friends at all, save the wandering gypsies, and he gives these vagabonds leave to encamp upon the few acres of land which represent our family estate. He accepts in return the hospitality of their tents, and would wander away with them sometimes for weeks on end. He has a passion also for Indian animals. A correspondent of his sends them over to him, and he has at this moment a cheetah and a baboon. They are allowed to wander freely over his grounds, and are feared by the villagers almost as much as their master. You can imagine that my poor sister Julia and I had no great pleasure in our lives. No servant would stay with us, and for a long time we did all the work of the house. She was but 30 at the time of her death, and yet her hair had already begun to whiten, even as mine has.
Your sister is dead, then?
She died just 2 years ago, and it is of her death that I wish to speak to you. You can understand that because of the life we lived, we were unlikely to see anyone of our own age and position. We had, however, an aunt, Miss Honoria Westphale, who lives near Harrow, and we were occasionally allowed to pay short visits to her. Julia went there at Christmas 2 years ago, and met a retired major of the Marines, to whom she became engaged. My stepfather learned of the engagement when she returned, and offered no objection to the marriage. But within a fortnight of the day which had been fixed for the wedding, my sister died, depriving me of my only companion.